mention how within the Bible. How was he persecuting them and sending them to prison? Who was he? Under what jurisdiction did he send them to prison? It's not mentioned. But Saul tried to join the Church of Jesus and James, and then split off and went his own way. And then we look at Josephus, and he did exactly the same. Josephus was the army commander in command of Galilee. And his main opponent that he was chasing around Galilee was Jesus. Now, conventional historians will say, oh, it's a different Jesus. No, this was the same Jesus. Because this Jesus was Jesus of Gamala, who owned his own army. And so he was the rebel leader of 600 fishermen. So who in this era was the rebel leader of 600 fishermen? We can only be talking about the biblical Jesus. And so Josephus does exactly the same as Saul. He was the rebel, he was the chief of police in that era. He was persecuting this particular Jesus and his band of rebel fishermen. He then sort of tried to join them. And then, of course, after some disputes with the Romans and after the siege of Chapala, he went off on his own. And he changed sides again, just as Saul did. So again, he changed sides twice. And this is one amongst many reasons why I think they are the same. But the important thing is, it then gives us a new insight into the life of Jesus, because the whole of Josephus's discussion about this era was his battles with this person called Jesus. And this gives us a completely new set of texts that detail the life of the biblical Jesus. And it seems that this particular Jesus was quite important. He was the governor of Tiberias, and he owned a castle. And he also was the leader of 600 soldiers. And again, here we start linking back into the fourth sect and to Theomusa Orania, who also had their own independent army, exactly the same as this Jesus did. And so it seems likely that Jesus had his own armed forces. Now, you might say, well, that's completely impossible, that's just not present within the Bible. But it is. It's in the Bible as well. You just have to look for the text. And we come back to sort of Matthew 10:34, where Jesus says, I don't come to bring peace. I come not to bring peace to the world. I come to bring a sword. That's what he said. And then we have the event on the Mount of Olives, which is a curious affair, because we have Jesus and his disciples on the Mount of Olives at night, and they're surprised by the Roman guard. Well, just before this happens, of course, Luke 22:36, he tells his disciples to go out and buy swords. Sell your purse and your wallet and go and buy swords. And the disciples come back with swords, and he says, it's enough. So here we have a different sort of Jesus to what we're expecting. It's not a Jesus that is preached from the pulpit. We don't get these verses from the pulpit. This is a revolutionary Jesus. And of course, that's what Jesus the Galilean means. We say Jesus of Galilee. Well, what does Galilee mean? It means a circle, a revolutionary. So here we have this event on the night of on the Mount of Olives at night, where they're surprised by the Roman guard, and they're surprised by not just one or two Romans that come up. They're surprised by a spira, a cohort, 600 fully armed centurions. So can we have a different angle on this particular event? And this is the advantage with having Josephus in his text. Because yes, we do, because Josephus writes exactly the same account. The only difference is that Josephus says there were 30,000 armed people and the intent was to take Jerusalem by force. And of course the leader of this was the Egyptian false prophet, Jesus himself. And so it's clear from these different texts that we're talking about a rebel leader, a man of influence, a man with a great number of followers who was interested in the secular politics of that era. Although within Judaism, of course, you cannot separate politics and religion, it's identical. But here we have a rebel leader who was going to take Jerusalem by force. But they were foiled, of course, because the Roman Guard, in both versions, the Roman Guard comes out and they are scattered. And that's the end of the bid to take Jerusalem. And so here we have a completely different perspective on the events of the New Testament.
So we go, into his life, and his many books are coming out about Jesus' life as a husband and a father. And dare we go into this area?
Yes, of course.
So why don't we go from there?
Okay, well, yes, I suppose the main thing that's come up recently is the Da Vinci Code, and was Jesus married? Well, the Da Vinci Code has actually just put this into the public perspective. But it's been around obviously for years, this question as to whether he married Mary Magdalene or not. And it seems quite clear to me that he did. They made a big fuss about Leonardo da Vinci, his Last Supper scene, of course, and said, that this is a woman on the right-hand side. And lots of people will stand up and say, no, it's not possible. Especially people from the religious authorities say it's not possible. Well, strangely enough, that is not an unusual depiction. There are many Last Supper scenes, of course, that have been painted around the world. And if you go around the stately homes of Britain, you'll find quite a few Last Supper scenes with a woman on the right-hand side of Jesus, and quite clearly they are women. But I was surprised, because I was doing some research on a different topic entirely in Ireland, and I went out to the cathedral just north of Dublin, and there was a Last Supper scene there as well. This was a marble one. It was quite well done, actually, in white marble. And quite clearly, the disciple on the right-hand side of Jesus was a woman. But there's a Catholic cathedral in the middle of Catholic Ireland, and still the disciple on the right-hand side of Jesus was a woman. And I did a little piece for the local newspaper and said it's a woman, and of course the custodians of the church of the cathedral said, oh no, it's clearly not. But everyone that, and I'm sure you can show a little depiction of it as a part of this talk, quite clearly everyone I've spoken to said, no, it's a woman, can't be anything else. So here we have these secrets that have been withheld from the laity, are clearly held even within the Catholic Church. They know that Mary Magdalene was an important part, the most important disciple of the disciples.